Welcome to the Hilton Head Livin Podcast. I am your host, O.T. Gibbons. Our mission with all of our content is to make sure you know everything going on in Hilton Head, all the best places to go, all the events that are happening, and everything that you need to check out to get the most out of your time in Hilton Head. I am joined as always by my co-host, the star of our content, and the person most responsible for putting in the work to make sure this all happens, my beautiful wife, Jessica Gibbons. How you doing, Jess?
Hi.
Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about how we ended up in Hilton Head, what we learned moving here, what advice we would give people coming to the island, whether you're vacationing here or trying to move here, why we started filming content, why we started this profile in the first place, and what we have enjoyed the most about being here. So with that, what do you remember about how we ended up here?
Well, a little background of that we came from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, mainly on the Maryland side. I have lived in Maryland my whole life, went to school at Towson, and OT went to University of South Carolina, so he knew about the South, enjoyed it. And right after COVID, his parents bought a house in Hilton Head. They went on a vacation south to some places they haven't been to before, fell in love with Hilton Head, and got lucky of being able to buy a house right away. So we have come here and visited for a couple years, and we absolutely loved it. So we were in the market. We were able to sell our house. We were going to buy another house in D.C., but then we lived in my stepdad's basement apartment for about 6 months. And I was just going nuts and just asked if we can go to South Carolina because it's so much nicer there. The weather is a lot nicer. And I was ready for a change. I'd been in the D.C. area for about 40 years, so I was ready for a change. We were lucky to get a house, sight unseen though.
We hadn't seen it. We had to trust I do think that one of the things that benefited us is my family's been in real estate for the entirety of my life, and it is what my brother and I do for a living. So we had the benefit of my parents being here, and they were looking at houses for us, and we have bought so many properties together, and we together kind of brainstormed on what we were looking for and ended up finding it. I will say the first thing we learned actually came before we ever moved here was from my parents' move. The first piece of advice I could give anybody moving from out of the state of South Carolina to the state of South Carolina, I mean, even if you're renting, honestly, on a vacation, is that the laws here are a little bit different, and who you have as a real estate agent, who you have advising you really, really matters. My parents, it was spur of the moment. They got a referral from somebody. I didn't have a chance to vet the agent, and she was horrible. Horrible. I can't stress how terrible she was and how stressful it made the situation, how horrific the entire process of buying their house was. Now, they got lucky and ended up very happy in their home, but really it only worked out for us because we had this lifetime in real estate. I think if anybody else had gone through that, it might not have turned out so well. So I think the first thing I want to tell everybody is be very careful who you're getting to advise you and help you and teach you about the community before you live here. And then that led to us obviously on our house hunt and, what we learned, kind of in our process about trying to find our house. So we hired our agent, and what would you say some of the first things we learned?
We learned from him that we wanted to be in Hilton Head Plantation because his parents, my in-laws, are in Sea Pines, and it's a wonderful area. It's so nice. Very, very nice. Don't get me wrong. But we just couldn't take the tourism in the summer, how crowded it is in the summer. So we knew we didn't want to be there. And he told us that most people that reside on the island year-round do live in Hilton Head Plantation. So at least we had a clue of where we were looking for.
Yeah, I think that what he stressed to us was coming from D.C., where there are not a lot of POAs or HOAs, as you may refer to them as, but there just aren't a lot of them back in DC. And that was something we had to get used to, was kind of identifying. And Drew, my brother, and his wife are going through this as well as they try to move down here, where it really comes down to identifying the community that you would like to live in that kind of fits your life, because there are so many different. Are you a beach and this goes for renting as well. Are you a beach person? Are you a tennis person? Are you a golf person? Are you a riding person? Are you a Bluffton person? Like, who are you, and what community do you want? A great community pool? All of that stuff, you have to kind of figure that out as to who you are, and then match the community that you want to live in with that. If you're a younger family, where does that match up? If you're somebody retiring, where is that community for you? You could really get in the wrong community and still be happy because it's Hilton Head, but
exactly.
Maybe not as happy.
And that's what we didn't really have that much criteria moving down here. We wanted to move here as soon as possible, get out of the basement. So we really didn't have that. We weren't very picky. Of course, we wanted a nicer place, but in reality, we really just wanted to get down here.
Some of the more particular things we learned is like when you're having your moving trucks down here, making sure they can get into the gates and stuff. And, there's so many little things about moving here. What things did we learn in terms of just simply the aspect of getting here?
Well, like you said, being able to moving trucks, not just your moving trucks, but deliveries in general. Mm-hmm. And we had learned that the hard way, with not all delivery companies or trucks are able to get into the gated communities. And we had ordered something from Wayfarer and we weren't home. And it turns out they didn't have a pass to get in. Now you can pay beforehand a fee for them to get in, but we didn't know that. We've never experienced that before, so we couldn't get our delivery.
I think in general, one of the big things about moving here is figuring out the gate pass situation at like all the different communities. We went to a community last night, similar to Hilton Head Plantation, the one we went to last night. Sea Pines, you have to go around the building or go into the building to get the pass. You stay in the right lane, you go right. Like each community and how you get workers in, how you get a moving truck in. When we go look at houses for Drew and Bree, their system for Hampton Hall is like all on the phone. They text you. Like everyone is so different. That's definitely something to be aware of when you're visiting or moving here, is just making sure you know ahead of time that you're going to a community and figuring out how you're going to get in.
And a little tip that took us a couple months to realize is that if you live in Sea Pines or in Hilton Head Plantation, you can get into each other's community also.
Yes.
So we kept having his mom call us in a pass, I think for like 5 months, and then realized we could get on our own. So
how did we figure that out? Didn't you just like not have one and you're like, well, I'm just going to try
I think, the pass expired and we tried it out because they could get into ours, and
I think we were literally driving up to the gate and I reached for the pass and at the last minute realized we didn't have one, and the guy just waved us through and we were like, what just that? Like that's how we figure stuff out around here sometimes. So.
And the next time I remember going and I just was like, fingers crossed, hopefully this still works, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So those kinds of things are always really tricky. And then, even going to if you're visiting here or if you live here, I mean, just the beach parking passes as well. I mean, that took us, I think we were here for at least like 6 months before we figured out how some lady was just nice enough in the parking lot to like explain it to us. What did she say to us again? What was it about the beach parking?
That if you're a resident, you can buy a year-round parking beach pass. And I think it was $15 per car for the whole year. And you get to free parking at all of the...
Most of the public beaches.
All of the public beaches.
Yeah. Yeah, so. The only one we can't get to is the Sea Pines Beach Club. And if you are visiting here and you're on vacation, most of these, I'd say a significant majority of the public beaches have metered parking. Some lots have more metered parking than others, but there is metered parking at majority of the public beaches.
And we found out too that if you live in Hilton Head Plantation, you get free parking at Folly Beach. So that's the one we went to just because we knew we had free parking there. And then it turned out it was the smallest part. We didn't realize that that's the one that has the least amount of parking.
Yeah, the access stuff in general on Hilton Head, because it's so gated with everything, is probably the biggest piece that you have to try to sort out if you're visiting or moving here. And I also think it's why people, when they're just visiting on holiday or on, on vacation with their family, a lot of people, and this goes to like why we end up starting the profile, but a lot of people probably get stuck doing the same things over and over every vacation because it's just so difficult to figure out how in the heck to go try anything new. Like, you got to figure out how to get through the gate, where you're going to park, what the thing is. Like, it's not easy. Then you have to figure out about the event. Like, it's just not an easy thing to sort when you're here for a week.
And there's not necessarily a lot of signage either. Like sometimes you're walking down a path being like, am I going the right direction? I hope. That's like driving to Fish Hall Beach the first time I took you. It's this almost like dirt road, pretty narrow.
Yeah.
He was like, where are you taking me?
Yeah.
That I was taking him to the beach.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many little things like that you can that you need to learn.
Well, there's also, so when we were looking for our house too, again, not much criteria. The main thing was that there couldn't be a lagoon close by because you are still, I don't know, maybe a little less horrified of alligators.
Still don't want to be near them.
They're everywhere here. So, but it was also because of our dogs. You're scared for the dogs to get eaten. And there was actually, you guys had a joke when we would first visit, and we had just had our one dog, Colt. And the joke was that if the alligator came after Colt, it's getting me also. It's going to eat Jess.
Oh no, Jess is diving in. Colt, Zoe too. Like if one of the dogs, we have two dogs. If one of the dogs gets got by the alligator, they always tell you don't let it go. No, my wife is dead also. Both die. She's fighting the alligator. Definitely losing. There's just no way I could stop it. That's actually an interesting thing about, this is kind of real estate nerdy, but the way they value the properties down here, it's like water view, golf course view, like woods view. Like the way it's a little bit different. It's not just the square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, how nice is the house. It's also a little bit of, you could be in the Hilton Head Plantation and have one house looking over the Calabogie and another house, outlooking body of water in the golf course, and they could be the exact same house and they'll be two different prices. So that's interesting about how all that works.
And then so we end up getting very lucky with our house where the golf course is basically in our backyard, which is a new thing. Obviously, I've never lived on a golf course, so I thought nothing about it. But I have learned, and it will be now for our next house, something I will look for, is that the cart path goes right by our house, which it's not that bad, but with the dogs and no fencing, and you can't build a fence. But not only do we have the cart path, but it's the ladies' tee is literally like in our backyard. So with the two dogs, Zoe just barks at the wind. So moving here, she still even does just bark because they're just stopped right there, standing there, talking and whatnot. So that is something I am looking for our next house, is to make sure that there's not a cart path or a tee right in your backyard. But then we've also, speaking of Zoe, we kind of got in trouble because you're not supposed to have anything in your yard per se. You're not allowed to have a fence. And so, but because she was a puppy, we didn't want her to run off or run after the golf course, golf carts. So we had one of those temporary kind of metal fences you can link together in our yard. And we got yelled at about it.
Somebody playing golf mentioned, we got some nasty letter that we needed to take it down from the POA, whatever, it's part of the deal. I mean, I think the other thing that I learned about being South Carolina specifically this past week was about the animal life. Like there's so many in DC. You get raccoons, maybe the occasional rat. Not really. We got some mice when we were in the basement, and yeah, you get squirrels, but not like really. I mean, down here we just had to do a full thing on our house. You really have to maintain the exterior of your home because there's armadillos, there's rats, there's snakes, there's squirrels, there's raccoons, there's deer, there's alligators. We've had an alligator in our yard. We have deer coming through the yard all the time. I haven't seen an armadillo. Oh, we have a gopher. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you just have to be kind of aware of. And
there's lizards too. We've had a couple lizards in the house, and then the dogs go nuts. So.
Oh, and palmetto bugs, and she's always like, there's a spider, there's. She can't kill it, of course. I got to come in and figure out whatever it is. But yeah, we've caught like 3 lizards. We've got these older doors. If you're doing this stuff, you've really got to maintain the exterior of your home very, very well. Keep it clean, keep it orderly. Not just for the POA, but for like, you don't want wildlife in your house. And we bought this house from an older lady, and she was in her 90s and had passed away, and her kids were selling it to us. And I think as she had gotten older, she had kind of let the maintenance of the outside go. And the guys were just telling me last week, like, oh, there's holes in your chimney. There's holes in a squirrel eating a hole in whatever. So you got to really maintain that. I know it's kind of random, but if you've got a rental, if you're moving here, you do have to pay attention to that stuff.
One of the things I know I had to get used to, and you did too, but you knew about it better, is that just the slower pace. Yeah. A little bit, like DC area, northern area, you're just kind of like, go, 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 let's go, let's go, let's go. But then in turn is that people are just a lot friendlier here too, and more helpful. Like when we first moved here and had to call the the water service. And it's like you get somebody on the phone within like maybe 5 minutes who's actually talking to you. And that's just that one. But in DC, you have to wait like a good hour, and then you get transferred to somebody else, and nobody can really help you. So that's been really friendly. And so we also, one of the reasons we moved down here is because I had a kidney transplant almost 20 years ago. Things weren't looking so great per se. They're fine. But had a little bit of a bump in the road. And so we also kind of figured, if things are going to go south per se, we want to be in a place that's enjoyable. And then it just turns out we got into MUSC in Charleston, but we've also been to the hospital medical stuff in Hilton Head too. And everybody is just so nice and friendly and helpful. And when it comes to like doctors, you want that. Like that's for me has been a huge difference. It's much more reassuring. You feel, you're nervous about a procedure or something going on, and then being friendly to you just goes so much longer. And then it's like the pharmacist at Harris Teeter knows who I am, where I have obviously a bunch of medications. And the first time I went there, she goes, "Oh, you're somebody I need to get to know because you're going to be here a lot. I need to know your medications and stuff." And it's like, well, now every time I come in, she's like, "Hey, Jess, how's it going?" And I'm just like still blown away. And I've stood in line sometimes where it's like they do get chatty and whatnot. But then in my head, I'm like, you know what? Take a breather, because she's helped me through stuff. I can wait a little bit longer because she's been so helpful to me in the past too. So that's a huge difference.
I think that what you lose, because you do lose the website app technology of everything here is behind. DMV, Hilton Head PSD, the water company, the even like the Wi-Fi group, the electric, the HVAC people. There isn't any, when you live in DC or you live in New York or you live in LA, everything is done via app. You pretty much do everything via app or website. You schedule Pepco, you schedule da-da-da, right? Like everything's scheduled via website or app, right? That is not how it works out here. Like everything is in person or on the phone. And when you call, you don't get an automated thing. You get our trash. Our trash is the same way. You get a person. You don't get like a website automated customer service thing, which is slower, and I think might drive a lot of people crazy because on the computer it's just beep beep, bink bink bink. What you lose in that efficiency, we'll call it, you gain in personal care. And like you said, we had been told initially by a lot of people that the medical care was not great. We had come down here because we had heard about how great the kidney stuff was in Charleston at MUSC. But my dad needed a shoulder replacement. I needed a shoulder replacement. Some other, my mom has dealt with breast cancer. We were kind of expecting a dip with those doctors, but they're better. I had a better experience with this shoulder that I had 2 previous surgeries in DC. This was 1,000,000% better. My dad's had, I think, like 15 surgeries at this point. This was his best experience he's ever had. He's had hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, the whole thing done. He'll tell you this is the best experience he's had at Hilton Head Hospital. And then we obviously love MUSC.
But yeah, I got my kidney I had to get a biopsy of my kidney at Hilton Head Hospital, and they're great. It's so much nicer. You're reassured, and like you feel like you're being cared for.
The process that they go through to schedule and do stuff is more old school. It's more in person on the phone, like I said. But the care that you get is also more personable, which when you're getting the care, you really enjoy.
But yeah, people they're chattier. Definitely, I know the grocer checkout know their life story kind of thing, and sometimes you just got to bear through it. But I feel like I've also become a nicer, chattier person since living here too. It's in the northern cities, you just kind of look straight ahead and you just go. You don't really take the time to talk to anybody. So in a way, it is nice. Sometimes it can be a little frustrating, but I feel like overall it is nice.
Last night for the Lantern Parade was the first time I have heard someone honk a car. Like legit, in the year that we've lived here, it's the first time I've heard a horn. Now, the traffic was really bad all over the island because it's like apparently the biggest event that we have. We love living here. Super, super friendly, which kind of leads to like why we started the profile and why we started making Hilton Head content in general. What is your memory of why we ever started doing this? What do you remember about starting the content?
Well, if you guys don't know, OT is huge into social media with real estate. The real estate family.
Real estate family.
Gibbons Group,
yep.
So he's had lots of experience with it. I've never been a big social media person. I'm actually a personal trainer. And when I went out I used to do corporate fitness stuff. When I went out on my own, he was like, you have to post social media. I don't think I I got Instagram at that point. Like, he was like, you need to post. You need to do this. And I was like, I don't want to. I just want to work with my clients. I don't want to do anything with social media. I don't care. And then, so you thought though, if we did the social media account for Hilton Head Living, it would help us find places or like the restaurants or places to go to or parks or just things to do when we move down here. And also to help me kind of not miss my family and friends since I would be away from them. Yeah. So, I mean, are we saying that the profile is my idea? Am I getting credit? Okay. You are,
So I'm getting credit. So
for once, you're getting credit for something.
Yes, and I have it on record. But if I was to break it down, I would say there was really like 4 stages to it, where the first one was I simply had the question in my head of, has anyone ever played every golf course on Hilton Head Island? That was like my first initial thing. Then when we started living here, I was like, wow, it is. I like a good sandwich at lunch. I'm also, I don't love to make my food. So I was like, wow, it's really, really hard to find a freaking sandwich shop. So you drive down the roads here and this is why we love Hilton Head, is you drive down the roads and they have these trees, but they hide all the shopping centers. You can't just like drive by and look in and see what's in there. You've got to physically go, park, look around to try to find, or if you're at Coligny, there's like 100 shops. I mean, I missed the sub shop on Coligny for like a year before I finally found that place.
That was after we really decided we were really getting into this, and I made lists of it, and that's how you find
Watusi chicken sandwich is like my favorite sandwich, but that was kind of the second iteration, was like, how does anyone ever find anything on Hilton Head Island ever? And so it was like, well, maybe we could help, we would help ourselves remember and help other people find these places if they're coming here. And then the third thing was she would always go on hikes with our dog in the park in DC. And obviously Hilton Head's very, very flat. There's no hiking, but there's a lot of things to do that are very adventurous. And so to encourage her to explore and find new things, there had to be some reason, because I feel like it's pretty easy to just kind of get stuck in your routine. So the profile, at least for us, forces us to go do new things, which for people that don't have kids and for people that can kind of get stuck doing the same thing every day, me specifically, it really forces us to get out of the house and go on these adventures and go explore the island and try to help people. It really started as a way to help people find stuff on the island, and then it has kind of morphed into this helping small business thing, which we really never ever imagined that it would be, which has been a really cool experience. I know you've really enjoyed that part of it.
I've enjoyed it all. I love exploring this island. Like, I don't know if many people know that there is a sculpture trail, which I just recently went on a mission to go find them because they're hidden. But it was so fun and you get to see different areas or whatnot, and we still have so much more to explore. It's, just walked along the beach and went to the Dunes house for the first time last week. It's still fun to keep exploring, keep finding new places.
Yeah, and so the evolution of the content has really taken off. Like, it was never intended to be what it's become, but a couple of months, I don't remember exactly when it was, but small businesses, I am a serial entrepreneur, for the record. I love and I'm extraordinarily passionate about small business and entrepreneurship. And somewhere along the road, somebody reached out to us. I think it was the Aunt Shalida's person, the manager.
Yes, they were the first people to reach out to us.
And Bill from F45 were kind of the first couple people to reach out to us and say, hey, we really like following you. Would you mind doing something about our business? And that has now, we did it once, did it twice, and now everybody's reaching out to us to come to this event or come feature this small business. And that is really like, now you're hitting a spot for me that I am super passionate and I love doing anything to help these small businesses get their name out there, get some notoriety, get some publicity, and get more people, because they're all great. Every place we've been has been really great.
Yeah, which he can tell you. So I literally have to drag him to events. Of being like, when are we doing this weekend? Do I have to go? I don't want to go. That's exactly how this sounds, by the way. But then afterwards, be like, that was so fun. I'm like, yeah, can you just listen to me? Just do it okay? Stop complaining and just do it. And he usually has fun.
In all fairness, now that the profile exists, you really don't have to give me that hard of a time, because you're always just like, well, it's for work. And I'm like, I can't really argue against that. And we end up going. And there's just not a lot of marketing really in general on the island. And so that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that you are aware of everything on the island. You're aware of all the beaches, all the places to go, all the events and just really enjoy it.
So we're trying to pass on all the things that we've also learned that we didn't know about and had to learn about, and therefore make it a little bit easier for other people.